My name is Claire Dawson, and I was 58 years old when my husband left me for my best friend. 18 months later, he stood on my front porch crying. But the reason he came back wasn't what shocked me. What shocked me was the folder he was holding in his hands. Because inside that folder was proof that the woman he left me for had been lying to him for years. And by then, there was nothing either of them could do to fix what they'd destroyed. If you'd asked me a week before everything fell apart whether my marriage was happy, I probably would have said yes. Not perfect, not exciting, not the kind of marriage you see in movies, but happy. The kind built over 33 years. The kind that survives mortgage payments, job losses, raising children, and the 1,000 small disappointments that life throws at two people over 3 decades. Michael and I met when I was 23. He was funny, reliable, the kind of man who remembered birthdays and fixed broken cabinets without being asked. We built a life together, a real one. We raised 2 children, paid off a house, became grandparents. I genuinely believed we would grow old together. And maybe that's why I missed the signs. Looking back now, they seem obvious. The late-night texts, the sudden interest in fitness, the new shirts, the expensive cologne he'd never worn before, the way he started smiling at his phone, the way he stopped looking at me. But when you've loved someone for 33 years, your mind doesn't immediately jump to betrayal. You assume stress, you assume work problems, you assume almost anything except the truth. The truth arrived on a Friday evening in March. I was making lasagna. Michael walked into the kitchen, and 6 words changed my life forever. I think we need to separate. At first I thought he was joking. Then I looked at his face. There was no humour there, no uncertainty, no hesitation, just a cold determination that immediately terrified me. "What are you talking about?" I asked. He sat down at the kitchen table, the same table we'd eaten at for almost 20 years, the same table where our children did homework, the same table where we'd celebrated birthdays and anniversaries. And then he said the words every spouse dreads hearing. "There's someone else." I remember gripping the edge of the counter because suddenly the room felt unstable. Someone else. The phrase sounded unreal, like it belonged to somebody else's marriage, not mine, not ours. Who? The question came out as barely a whisper. Michael looked away. For several seconds, he didn't answer. Then he finally said a name, and my entire world tilted sideways. Sandra. My best friend. My closest friend for 27 years. The woman who stood beside me at my wedding. The woman who held my hand at my mother's funeral. The woman who sat beside me at countless family dinners. Sandra. For a moment, I genuinely thought I'd misheard him. "Excuse me." "It's Sandra." "No." The word escaped automatically, because my brain simply refused to process it. "No." Michael rubbed his forehead. "We didn't mean for it to happen." That sentence, that ridiculous sentence, as though affairs were natural disasters, as though people accidentally fell into hotel rooms together, as though 10 months of deception happened without conscious decisions. 10 months. That was how long the affair had been going on. 10 months. While Sandra hugged me goodbye after lunch, while she complimented my cooking, while she asked about my grandchildren. For 10 months, the 2 people I trusted most had been lying directly to my face. And somehow, neither of them looked particularly ashamed. "I love her," Michael said quietly. Those 3 words hurt more than everything else combined, because suddenly I understood. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't guilt. This wasn't confusion. He'd already chosen. The decision had been made long before he walked into that kitchen. I just hadn't been informed yet. The following weeks felt like living underwater. Everything moved slower, sounded distant, looked unfamiliar. Michael moved out within 12 days. Sandra stopped answering my calls, not that there was much left to say. Then came the social media photos, the vacations, the smiling selfies, the public relationship. Apparently, once they no longer had to hide, they wanted everyone to know how happy they were. Friends chose sides, some disappeared entirely. Others tried to stay neutral. The hardest conversation came from my daughter Emily. She called me one night crying. "Mum, Dad asked if Sandra can come to Lily's birthday party." I closed my eyes. Lily was my granddaughter, 7 years old, and somehow Michael genuinely believed bringing his affair partner to a child's birthday party was reasonable. "What did you tell him?" I told him absolutely not. For the first time in weeks, I felt proud. Not because Emily chose me, but because she chose common sense. Yet despite everything, the hardest part wasn't losing Michael. It was losing the future I'd imagined. The retirement trips, the quiet mornings, the growing old together. You spend 33 years building a picture of your life. Then one day someone rips it in half, and you're left holding pieces. For months, I barely recognized myself. Then something unexpected happened. The silence started feeling peaceful. The constant tension I hadn't even realized existed was suddenly gone. I started taking long walks, joined a book club, visited friends I'd neglected over the years. Little by little, I began rebuilding. Not because I was strong, because there wasn't another option. And while I was rebuilding, Michael's perfect new life was quietly beginning to crack. The first crack appeared 4 months after Michael moved out. I wasn't looking for it. In fact, by then I'd made a deliberate effort to stop paying attention to his life altogether. But small towns have a way of delivering information whether you want it or not. I was standing in line at the grocery store when I heard 2 women talking behind me. One of them mentioned Sandra's name. The other lowered her voice. "You know they already had a huge fight at that restaurant on Main Street." I didn't turn around, I didn't ask questions, but I listened. Apparently, what had started as an exciting romance was beginning to look a lot less romantic once real life entered the picture. Funny how that works. Affairs live in stolen weekends. Real relationships live in grocery bills, laundry, and bad moods. For almost a year, Michael and Sandra had existed in a fantasy. Now they were discovering who each other actually were, and neither seemed particularly impressed. A few weeks later, Emily called. "Mum, Dad wants to know if we'll all come to Thanksgiving at his place." I nearly laughed. His place? Actually, Sandra's place. That explained everything. Michael hadn't just left our marriage. He'd moved into Sandra's house, the same house her late parents had left her years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. For 33 years, Michael had insisted he hated living in someone else's space. Now he was doing exactly that. "What did you tell him?" I asked. Emily sighed. "The same thing I told him last month. The same thing I told him the month before." No. I felt a pang of sadness. Not for Michael, for Emily. Children aren't supposed to spend their 40s navigating their parents' affairs. Yet there she was, trying to protect family traditions from the people who had broken them. Christmas was worse. For the first time in over 3 decades, Michael wasn't sitting in his usual chair. The grandchildren noticed immediately. Children always do, even when adults think they're hiding things. "Dad, where's Grandpa?" Lily asked. The room went quiet. Emily exchanged a look with her husband. Then she smiled gently. "He's spending Christmas somewhere else this year." Lily frowned. Did he get in trouble? A few people laughed nervously, and for one brief moment, the tension eased. But later that night, after everyone left, I sat alone in the living room staring at the tree. And I cried. Not because I wanted Michael back, because grief isn't logical. You don't just mourn people. You mourn expectations, You mourn traditions. You mourn the future you thought was waiting for you. And some nights, that loss still hurt. By spring, I was doing better. Much better. I started volunteering twice a week, took a photography class, made new friends, the kind of friends who only knew me as Claire. Not Claire and Michael, just Claire. And surprisingly, I liked that version of myself. One afternoon, nearly a year after the divorce papers were finalised, I ran into Sandra for the first time. Neither of us expected it. I was leaving a bookstore downtown. She was walking in. For a moment, we simply stared at each other. 27 years of friendship standing on opposite sides of a glass door. The strange thing was how ordinary she looked. For so long I'd imagined this dramatic confrontation. Anger, accusations, closure. Instead, she just looked tired, older, unhappy, not devastated, not guilty, just exhausted. "Claire," she said quietly. I nodded. "Sandra." An awkward silence followed, then she surprised me. "How have you been?" The question was so absurd I almost laughed. How had I been? The woman asking had helped destroy my marriage. But somehow she still wanted small talk. "I'm fine," I said. And the shocking part was that it was true. For a second, something flickered across her face. Disappointment. Not because I was rude, because I wasn't miserable. She had expected something else. Maybe bitterness. Maybe resentment. Maybe visible damage. Instead, she found peace. And I think that bothered her more than any argument ever could. She opened her mouth as though she wanted to say something else, then thought better of it. "Take care, Claire." "You too." And that was it. 27 years ending in less than 30 seconds. As I walked away, I realised something important. I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't even think about her very often. She'd become part of my past, and that felt strangely liberating. The second crack appeared 2 months later. This time it came directly from Michael. He called unexpectedly on a Tuesday evening. I almost didn't answer. Almost. "Hello?" Silence. Then his voice. "Hi." He sounded different. Not older, not sad, just uncertain. The confidence he'd worn when he left was gone. "What do you need, Michael?" A pause. "I was just checking on you." I actually laughed. Checking on me. After 18 months, after 33 years, after an affair, after a divorce. Now he wanted to check on me. "I'm doing fine." "That's good." Another silence. Then, "Emily said you're taking photography classes." I frowned. Why would he care? "Yes. She says your photos are really good." Something about the conversation felt wrong. Like he wasn't calling to talk. He was calling to listen, to hear my voice, to confirm something for himself. Eventually he cleared his throat. "I should go." "Okay." Then just before hanging up, he said something strange. "Claire, I hope you're happy." Not, "I miss you." Not, "I'm sorry." Just, "I hope you're happy." At the time, I didn't understand why. 3 months later, I would. Because that was around the same time Michael finally started learning a painful lesson. The woman he left me for wasn't the woman he thought she was, and the truth was about to come crashing down around both of them.